Now that mainstream is losing a lot of its integrity and perhaps has lost its authenticity, do you feel that there might be a kind of shift in the power balance, and some of the most obvious examples of that shift in power would be the rise of UFC versus old school pugilism and boxing, and a relatively new sport like UFC, even though it probably is a reference to the oldest type of combat, I guess, gladiatorial combat, maybe. I'm not an expert at all. The sport itself is as you said, as real as it gets, and is, aside from the fighters and the somewhat transitory stars that come in any sport, because everyone has an expiration date if physical excellence is part of the package, Joe Rogan is one of the defining figures. I want to know how you knew did you know that this guy was the right person to be the avatar and figurehead of the public broadcast aspect of UFC, and what his rise tells us about the shift in landscape in media, where you knew that UFC was a success because of Fox or its international equivalents, and now those very media organizations are, if not being dwarfed by a figure like Rogan, are certainly being challenged.
No, you're absolutely right. The mainstream media, as far as I'm concerned, is dead. It doesn't exist anymore. You have subscribers. Fox has subscribers that want to hear what Fox has to tell them, and CNN and MSNBC and all of them have subscribers who want to hear what they have to tell them. Nobody's telling the truth anymore. If you want to hear the truth, or as close to the truth, podcasting is where it's at now, where you sit down one-on-one and you have these intimate conversations with somebody who doesn't have an agenda, who isn't trying to hit you with that gotcha moment, and then cut it up and edit it and make it look like somebody said something else. You have the media now will use your podcast, chop it up 50 million ways, and use it however they want to use it to say what they want to say, not what you said. And Joe Rogan is definitely leading the charge in that world right now. And it's one of the beautiful things about Joe. I mean, even with the Trump thing, he invited Trump and Kamala to both come on his show, not showing favoritism toward either one of them. And even recently, when they put all the demands on her, and the reason that Kamala won't do his show is because Kamala Harris cannot speak without a teleprompter, and that's a bad environment for her. Anytime you put her in front of the camera, it's a bad environment. So I knew she wouldn't take the offer to do the show, but I actually think she's crazy not to, because Joe Rogan isn't one of those guys that's going to come out and attack her and try to make her look bad. She can do that on her own.
Actually, he's a very respectful and kind person, and certainly in that environment, that's how I found him on the occasions that I've spent time with him. And at the point that the Democratic Party are now at, I kind of wonder what they've got to lose, but they must have calculated that they have stuff to lose in integral demographics in key areas. And again, that subject of authenticity comes to the forefront, because my guess would be that you knew that Rogan's a lifelong martial artist with a genuine interest in the sport that means he would, and I think at some point did, actually do it for nothing. So again, this principle of authenticity will see you through. When you're dealing with the Democratic Party trying to contend with media, you can almost look at the lineage and see how, like, someone like Bill Clinton was a slick media operator and very likable. One can't help but wonder how Bill Clinton would have got on in the social media age with some of his, let's call them favorably, some of his Oval Office hobbies and his unique cigar holders, shall we call them. That's a guy that may have struggled in a social media environment to manage his reputation and his image. Now you're at the point where they don't have a slick on-screen media operator like Clinton. They had Biden that surprised them by falling apart, and they had no choice but Kamala, and she doesn't know how to operate in the aquarium of modern media life. That's plain and observable.
That's why they're using Obama so much right now. Obama hasn't worked this hard in 10 years. That's why they have him. If you looked right now, you would think Obama was running again. That's why they keep putting him out there, because he is the guy who can speak well, and she can't. She can't. She cannot talk without a teleprompter.
And when you scrutinize it, though, even Obama, who is a brilliant media operator and communicator, Obama has to be held up alongside his record, which includes his handling of the 2008 financial crisis, the ongoing drone-in and foreign misadventures while he was president. So you can no longer hold up Obama and pretend this is the era of hope and change and transition from the Bush-Cheney wars in Iraq type era. We now know how that unfolds. And what I find really hard to communicate to people, and really in a sense somewhat overwhelming, is I think that since Bobby Kennedy has become a part of the MAGA movement, it's now more and more difficult to not acknowledge that what's happening there is more authentic, has more integrity, and is more open than anything that the Democratic Party can stage manage. It's become clear that what they're interested in is managing corporatist and globalist interests while sort of seeming likable and normal. But you're a person that seems has had a relationship with Trump in particular for a long time, and whilst Trump is continually accused, particularly by his detractors, of being dishonest and being a liar and that, I get the sense that he has the same type of authenticity that's formed the backbone of our conversation for this first 20 minutes. Let's be honest, most K-Cup pods are serving you mouldy, pesticide-laden rubbish. Chains like Dunkin', they're stinking the place out with their stale coffee and expecting you to say cheers. 1775 Coffee makes sure you don't have to drink a chemical soup when you want a caffeine lift. 1775 Coffee steps in to slap the mediocrity right out of the competition. Their K-Cup pods are filled with single origin, high altitude beans, hand-picked by people who know what flavour actually is. It's coffee that will slap your brain fast awake. Faster, in fact, than a government scandal. Who doesn't need an injection of this new caffeine inflection? Kamala Biden? Get this stuff down here. You've got a choice of medium roast, dark roast, and mushroom blend. Yeah, actual mushrooms like lion's mane and reishi to boost your brain power as well as giving you an immediate lift. Because let's be honest, if your coffee isn't strong enough to overthrow a small government, what's the point? This coffee is for people who don't want a participation trophy. This is coffee for winners. Go to 1775coffee.com, grab your 24-pack and tell corporate coffee to take a hike. That's go to 1775coffee.com, grab your 24-pack and tell corporate coffee to take a hike. Caffeine that will help you overthrow the powerful. What's your analysis of why the phenomena of Trump is so powerful, how the Trump of 2016 succeeded, and why you believe, as I assume you do, that the Trump of 2024 will succeed? What in particular is it about him?
Yeah, no, listen, Trump is one of the most authentic human beings you'll ever meet. And I've been friends with this guy for a long time. And I tell everybody that I come in contact with and in interviews, he's the best. I love this guy. He's a great human being. And he is authentic enough to go on Joe Rogan's show for 3.5 hours, unscripted, and talk about anything that popped up, to talk to Joe or anybody else, you know. And I pushed hard for him to do that interview because that's the setting that he needs to be in. Every time he does an interview with the mainstream media, it's all the same bullshit. And I knew that he and Rogan would sit down. More importantly, I knew he and Rogan would like each other. I needed to get those two together because I knew they would end up liking each other once they sat in a room together. You know, if you look at how much Trump has been attacked over the last, since 2015, just nonstop, the way that they've tried to destroy this guy. And he just keeps on coming. He is one of the most resilient humans that I have ever met. And the way that he is built and what he has to offer, he is who you want to be the president of the United States right now, right here, with all the stuff that's going on, not just in the United States, but in the world. The scary part about this is what's always fascinating to me, and how this is even real life right now is absolutely fucking mind-boggling to me. Now, they have determined after the last debate that Biden is unfit to run, right? He's the president of the United States. What do you mean he's unfit to run? He's the president of the United States. And she's coming in and she's talking about all the change and all the things she's going to do. She is the sitting vice president of the United States. The last 4 years is her administration. And the fact that anybody can even consider voting for her and this administration is unbelievable. And the scarier part is, who's running the country right now? Who is actually running the country? And the brilliant thing that I think is absolutely amazing, whoever it is and whatever's going on right now, they have figured out a way to slide Kamala Harris in here, right? Without one person voting for her, because if they put her up to vote, there'd be another Democrat in there. She would have never even come close to getting this far, right? And if they can pull this off, whoever is really running the country right now will still be in power for another 4 years. And the fact that this is even real life is absolutely fucking insane.
Yeah, that's a brilliant way of putting it. It can't have been Biden in control when, for years in advance of that debate, most commentators in our space were saying this guy is falling into senescence and senility. It can't be Kamala Harris who's in charge. So who's ever engineering and managing this situation, the people that make choices like get Bobby Kennedy out of this party, he's too radical, he's too anti-big pharma, he's too anti-war, get rid of that guy. Whoever's making those decisions will still be in charge. It's a very good way of putting it. Isn't it pretty unusual, Dana, to find yourself in a position where you are brokering conversations between the former and potentially future president of the United States and this new emergent figure? Even it's not that long. What is it, 5-10 years since we've had Joe Rogan in the position he's in, that are ultimately, it would seem to me, able to significantly influence, even through that one conversation I'm talking about, the outcome of this election. How do you, I mean, that's pretty much outside of the purview of an entrepreneur, a businessman, a person with like interest in combat sports and martial arts. How do you feel that how are you in this position? Like, how is this role emerged?
Good question. Through the friendship with he and I. He called me and asked me if I would speak for him at the Republican National Convention 10 plus years ago, whatever it was. And everybody told me not to do it. Don't do it. He's not going to win. Don't get involved in this. And, long story short, I did it. And he and I became, as close as could be. And I truly believe the two most hated people in this world right now are politicians and the media. And I am a big believer in, I think that traditional media is dead. It's dead, and it is dying, a fast, painful death. I'm a big believer in social media. I'm a big believer in podcasts. I'm a big believer in guys like you and Rogan, smart guys who speak their mind and aren't afraid of the repercussions. We need more people like this. We need more people who have a platform to get out and tell the truth. And like you said, like this interview started, and be authentic.
Yeah, it's not an easy path to take always. And I wonder what personal consequences you've experienced, because that does, like, I just was remembering what it was like in 2015, because I can tell you plainly that when Donald Trump announced that he was running, right, I was already doing a YouTube channel. I was very anti-establishment. I was very anti-government, anti-corporatism, globalism, anti-war. But I still, when Donald Trump come to the forefront as a presidential candidate, I was like, nah, this guy cannot win a presidential election. And I was consuming the media that was damning and condemning him. So I've learned since he's been in the public eye in this incarnation, like, hang on, the reason they don't like this man is because he's a berserker. He's a bull in the china shop. They can't control him. He's not part of those conduits of power that produce the kind of politicians that we've discussed and broadly agree are constructed, unreliable ciphers. I think it must have been an unusual choice for you to have made that, and a sort of a brave choice. And I'm surprised by the fact that you had that insight and perspicacity then. What was it about Donald Trump at that point that you liked, and what were you basing that decision on?
Well, I liked him a lot, actually. When we first bought the UFC, the stigma that was attached to this thing was so bad that venues didn't even want us. We had a hard time getting into venues. And Trump literally reached out and said, think about it. Trump brand at that time, UFC brand down here. And he said, love to have you at the Trump Taj Mahal. We ended up working out a deal, went down there. We did 2 events. He showed up for the first fight of the night and stayed to the last fight. And then after that, everything that ever happened to me in my career, Donald Trump would reach out and say, congratulations. Donald Trump is a good guy. It's crazy when you look at another thing that's absolutely insane to me. Everybody's talking about, oh my God, if he becomes the president of the United States, he's going to take away these people's rights, and he was already the president of the United States. What are you talking about? He's already been proven that he was a good president of the United States. What do you mean if it's the end of the world if he gets in there? Another crazy narrative that they're able to sell to really stupid people. But anyway, Trump has always been a good guy. He's a good person, comes from a good family. His family's, his kids are all good people. It's just when the machine starts to attack, man, I don't care how big you are, how much money you have, how long you've been around. They come guns a-blazing, man. And let me tell you what, you realize in life, I always say this, when the shit hits the fan, you realize who's who. And a lot of the people scatter, and I didn't. He was always a good guy to me. When he asked me to speak for him, I said I'd be honored to, And now, I mean, Trump is literally a very, very good friend of mine. We are very close.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.